Howdy my friends and welcome to the channel today. I'm Luke, Thunderhead289 here on YouTube. I just got home from work, oh boy, and I got the itch to embark on a little bit of tomfoolery here today. And something I should have done a long time ago. Let's go inside, it's awful. I gotta squint all the time out here. So, not this truck over here. Everyone thinks that, it's just one truck. There's actually two trucks that are extremely similar. So, this is my old high school truck right here that I've had for, I don't know, probably 15 years or so. And it's been sitting for a long time, along with the 65 Galaxy. We're not even going to talk about that. But I think today is a good day to get it out. I kind of got everything straightened out. I'm catching back up with life. And, this was a good running truck some years back. Now, there's nothing too strikingly special about this truck. I picked this thing up way back for $500 when I was a kid, in high school, and these were just beaters, okay? No one cared. You still saw this stuff on the road all the time being driven as just a normal vehicle, which you don't anymore, so I'm kind of feeling my age with that one. But in here, it's just like I had it in high school. Nothing really changed. I think the last time it's really been driven here is I went on 2019 Power Tour and did the whole thing. So there's our good 5-speed there. Hopefully our brakes aren't all seized up. A CB like any high school kid. And if you have rigs that you leave out in the, in a barn like this, it's always a good idea to pin the clutch pedal or else it'll just kind of seize together. So let's take a look under the hood here and see what we're dealing with. You can see, like I said, it just becomes a storage facility if it sits around too long, which it definitely has at this point. Nothing too special here under the hood, just a normal Roller 302, Pertronics ignition, some carburetor stuff, but nothing overly special. It is originally a truck engine, and it was an EFI engine. I pulled it out, painted it, switched it over to carburation, and here it was for quite a long time, pretty darn reliably. Now, an interesting fact about this engine is this is how I originally met Kevin Brown, also known as Junkyard Diggs. But he was just Kevin at the time. He was in college. I needed an engine, and he had rolled his Bronco that he had in high school, or I guess he was in high school, and they pulled the engine out. Well, anyway, I needed an engine for this truck, and Kevin had randomly contacted me. And anyway, long story short, I met Kevin. He did this Instagram stuff, and I said, dude, waste of time. You should totally do YouTube. And then we did that old F-250 out in the woods together, and then the rest is history, and he became Junkyard Diggs. But this is actually how Junkyard Diggs kind of started, is right there, and that's Kevin's engine from his original first vehicle that he ever had, ironically enough. Now, I know nobody cares about the old 65 Galaxy, so I'll keep it brief. I've also had it since high school. I drove it all the way to Virginia and had it there as my only vehicle for 3 months. Back in 2015, brought it back, and then it's mostly sat since then. It's been almost a decade, I suppose, but it's got a supercharged Ford 302 roller engine. Hard to believe someone can let something like that sit, but, life gets in the way. Has a TKO 5-speed in it, and anyway, pretty neat old rig, 411 posi rear end, so it gets out of its own way pretty good, and needless to say, the only thing I need to do is put a distributor back in it, and it would be a runner. So, you can just see how this stuff happens with life. I was up here getting a battery for the truck, because it won't do much without that, I figure, and I found these bad boys. They've been MIA for quite a number of years. I bought them a long time ago from someone, but they are 1.7 ratio roller rockers. Now, Ford from the factory is 1.6 rocker arm ratio, so it should add just a little more lift. Does that equate to anything really that different? I don't know. Is it going to be piston to valve clearance problems? Probably, but we're just going to throw them in and see. But they are a factory Ford part. They came on the 93 Cobra or something. You Ford guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, I'm not a Ford guy here, but all that aside, I think we're going to give that a shot today too. So first things first here, I suppose, it makes good sense to see if it'll even crank over and start before we do anything else. Now, I did fog the engine with oil when I did park it, so you know the cylinder should be good and lubricated. Just pretty important in a humid building like this. Shucks. We're gonna want to get the carburetor exposed here, as it's sat so long that there's a good chance that the float will be stuck down. A needle and seat issue will come up. So this is a little 390 CFM Holley 4-barrel. It has a little flapper from back in the day. So this is a good old school unit back from the 60s. And you can't see it, but when Holley had all the patents on the front of the float bowl, their QC was way better in this era than it is today. And I hope they hear that, because dang, you know, I wish you guys were like you were back in the day. So all that aside, see if we got any power in here. Do these bad boys still work? Oh, look at that. Prime 2008. That's what you like. I don't even want to admit that I have them in the bed rails also. So, too cool. Actually, not cool at all. Pretty cringy. Someone had kind of an obsession with gauges here. Anyway, here's our key. I always thought that was really cool. Also cringy. Okay. It's got an electric fuel pump on it. And you know, people say I don't use Edelbrocks. I use them all the time. They have a lot of different uses. A door stop, you know. You can use it as a bashing tool. All right, so back to this. Let's get this out of here, maybe. There we go. Yeet. It's probably important. I don't want to lose it. It's cut to the perfect length. Well, hopefully I drive the truck, so it's not really relevant anymore. Now I feel a little more confident to prime the fuel system here. If it starts becoming a geyser out of the vents, that's bad. Or out of this little flappy doo up here. Looks like we've built pressure, so that's good. Get this all shut off here. I think we're ready to roll it over and see what happens. Now, I always feel bad making fun of Edelbrock, because actually they're a great company. Their AVS2 carburetor is lights out. I've installed several of them at this point. I just hope everyone knows that I'm just joking with them and I'm not serious, and I don't hate Edelbrock by any stretch of the imagination. So with that, let's see what happens. Time to roll this engine over. Neutral looking good. Is the accelerator pump petrified? Is the power valve petrified? Are those gonna blow? I don't know, you know, just typical Holley problems. Oh, I stopped and it totally thought about it. Here we go. There we go. Got a little concerned the oil pressure didn't move at first. Oh boy, I'm digging it. That was way too easy. It's like I parked it just yesterday, which I wish I would have. That would have meant I've been enjoying it, which I haven't been. Which has been a real shame. Sounds exactly as I remember. Sadly, it looks like the humidity got to my CB. That doesn't work. Let me turn my radio on. Hello? So that doesn't work either anymore. Big surprise. Looks like something the Motor City meth heads would put together. Apparently an armrest and a radio with all the wires coming through the seat. Yeah, that's fine. Put it up in the normal spot? No, put it here. So, you know, makes perfect sense. So busy flapping my stupid jaw, I didn't even realize it's idling on its own. That's pretty cool. And idling really smooth. I'm actually amazed it's doing that good, because I put like probably a gallon of fuel stabilizer in this thing over the years, so this fuel is super old and I probably should have drained it, but I didn't. Good old belt squeal, that's what you like. Turns out if you rev it hard enough, you can't hear the belt squeal over the It's out of the engine. Those are always good problems to have. This old Ford tractor's always been a tank, 1939 vintage. If you're familiar with Ford tractors, you know that they can do just about everything, but nothing well. They're not good at anything, but they can do all of it. So I don't know what that's worth, but take it for what you will. They sure are nostalgic units though, so that I can definitely get behind. Oh look, the rain, and I have hay on the ground. My favorite. Definitely rusty. First time seeing the light of day in quite some time. Apparently in high school I felt the need to paint the Mexican racing stripe on the bottom of the truck. Can you say that online? Probably not, but anyway, that's always what people have called it to me and told me about my own truck, so I'm just repeating what other people have said that I did to it. Now I tried to put this truck together on a budget back in the day, so I think I have like $1,800 in it or so. Man, the clutch is good and rusty, but anyway, you know, back then that was a lot more money than it is today, and a lot more easier to do. You know, you can pick up a T5 transmission like this for like a couple $100, and it'd still be in good shape. And our fuel gauge is reading empty. See if we can clean that clutch up a little bit. Why did I quit driving this? What a unit. Helps to have your Yeehaw McGee's on like I used to back in my extra ignorant days, so channeled some of my inner inbred there. I don't know if I thought that one through very well, because now the engine bay is 100 million degrees, the radiator's hot, the engine's hot. It's not going to be very fun to work on. So I'm going to go be productive here for a moment, and we'll come back when, you know, I don't know, we're not going to get third-degree burns. Got the sun right in my eyes here, but if you've never seen a YouTuber screw up because they're trying to hold a camera, well, you just did. So anyway, had a pretty hefty windrow, and I think I found the limit here. So trying to dig it out, and hopefully it doesn't kick on and cut my little arms off, but doing a pretty good job, all things considered. I think, trying to find it, missed one bale. Oh, it's right here. So this is the, where's my hand at? So right here, it tried to bale two together. Anyway, that's been the only mistake the entire time, which is incredible. But, I mean, other than this, but, you know, totally was my doing, because I'm a genius. But this alfalfa, you know, you farm folks, I'm a city kid, versus grass, it's just so long and stranded that you got to be really careful with your windrow, how high and how wide you stack it, at least with some 1960s baler. Because it starts to, you know, plug things up, and if, you know, someone wasn't careful, they'd just blow the belts off this thing and destroy it. And it works so good, it'd be a shame. But just a little look at what the fruits of my labors of being an idiot with this one row ended up doing. we broke the shear bolt on the little crank arm weight here, so I went to try and back it up, and obviously it rotated. I wish I would have just broke down not facing the sun. That would have been convenient. So I think I can just replace the shear bolt, and I ought to be able to spin this wheel and walk it backwards and get the jam out of there, which again, all my doing for making way too big of a windrow for this thing, so I knew better. I just kind of wanted to know where the line is. You have to go cross it, so that's what I definitely did here today. Well, the success of this is going to be pretty questionable here. So very random assortment of potential candidates for shear pins, none of which are even a grade 5. So yeah, this is probably going to go poorly. Well, I expect this to last 2 seconds, maybe tops. So now, with that shear pin off, I can back this plunger out, kind of spin this whole apparatus backwards. So it's free again. So I suppose I'm going to fire up the tractor and just give her the old bean dip and see what happens. Probably let out the clutch a little bit slower and slip it and see if we can get out of this jam. How do I start this thing? There we go. All right. So throw our PTO lever down here. Just gonna kind of ease into it. Nope. Nope. I think I just broke a second shear pin. Huh. Okay, well, obviously that didn't work. Okay. Learning the hard way. Pretty much how I learn everything. So, that was basically not even a grade 5 bolt, so I'm not surprised, but we're hitting something seemingly pretty metallic here, so I think we're going to just have to dig it out. Real shame. Self-induced problems. Obviously this baler was a great unit, so I don't know if it is anymore. I seem to be hitting whatever that is on the bottom of the screen, right on the track. So cleared all the jams. Hopefully I didn't get the baler out of sequence, because everything's kind of timed, you know. So there it is, hitting that. That's what I can see it to be with everything out of there. So probably not good. Definitely didn't happen at random, I'm sure. And it looks like it's these bad boys that kind of have some play in the ejection of the bale. So at this point, I'm just going to start throwing levers and see if I can get that to move out of the way, see what's going on there. Because that's kind of hanging us up right now. Go on, get. Something might be funky up here. Hard to say. Actually, probably not hard to say for you guys that are familiar with this stuff, but for me, sure is. Would you look at that? A little bit of percussive maintenance, and she's out. Again, this is all a self-induced issue. Ladies and gentlemen, or mostly gentlemen, because there's like 7% of women that watch my channel, and I know who half of you guys are. So all of that aside, we're a little loopy, so we've been bit by 1,000 mosquitoes, but we do make a full rotation now with that crank arm. So I'm digging it. I think if I use this little handheld light, I can see what I'm doing, and the tractor has forward lights. So that's what we're doing tonight. Too cool. That's how you learn stuff, by breaking things. Definitely learn not to be an idiot. This is definitely a horrible idea. All right, got mostly done last night before I ran out of gas. I actually just have one more pass to make, and I was getting eaten alive by the mosquitoes, so I called it quits. But behold the fruits of all my labor here. I sell these for $5 a piece, and usually 1 or 2 people buy them all up. That's just kind of an idea of what goes on with this stuff. But Now I have the privilege of picking all these up by hand because I had to run this by myself on this hay cutting. So kind of getting the hang of it, not too bad, but and it really is a privilege here, you know. Man was meant to struggle against the earth, in my opinion. Keeps him honest, keeps him of sound mind, and you know, he doesn't have to find his identity and causing destruction and arguing with his fellow man, because Lord knows he'll be proud and plumb wore out by the time he's done with stuff like this. So with that, I'm gonna wrap up my final pass here and maybe get back to the truck. Get back up in here. Don't be mistaken, a little test of mind over flesh is good for the body. Man kind of doesn't have that these days. It causes him a lot of problems, in my opinion. So again, I'm very much privileged. Well, I'm glad I'm young, I guess, even though I'm not. Oh boy, it's gonna be a lot of work, I think. Whew, not a lot of airflow in here. Reminds me of back when I was a kid building forts out of random things, except I lived in the city, so I guess I don't really have those memories. So I guess I'm being a kid now. My back definitely isn't as good as when I was younger. Boy, oh boy. Whew. All right, trying to remember where I was. All that baling stuff took a lot longer than I thought it would. I don't know why I always think it'll be quick. It always takes a lot longer. Absolutely shredded my arms, not muscle-wise, more like, you know, you're throwing hay bales around, and I never wear long sleeves. But anyway, all that aside, I'm really hoping these valve cover gaskets come off nice because it's already late, and I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time scraping gaskets. Got the Yeehaw special here with all these T-handles, but you know, they kind of make an engine look bigger, which if you step back, this little 302 in this big F100 engine bay, it just looks hilariously tiny. So I don't think the T-handles even helped in that regard this time. All right, skiddly-doo, there we go. And the gasket, ouch, all stayed on one side. Always hitting my head on hoods, I swear. But in the big reveal, pedestal rockers, stock units, the E7 TE cylinder heads from 1994. Pretty good stock cylinder heads, you know, they're not GT40s or GT40Ps, but for a truck, you know, they're plenty fine. I don't know if you can really grasp on screen the extent of how absurd this thing looks in here, but with the valve covers and air cleaner off, you know, it just looks like a little, oh, look at a little baby engine in there, you know. With the help of some light here, there's one thing that's always interesting to see when you pull the valve covers on an engine that has a PCV valve. You'll notice this bank looks a lot more dirty than this one here. This had the open breather, and this other side had the PCV valve on it. See it kind of flapping in the breeze back here right now, but basically, you know, PCV, positive crankcase ventilation. It's drawing in air on this side from manifold vacuum from that port, so it has to draw all the way across through the engine and suck in from this breather. So all of the oil fumes and everything are going all through and coming up and out. And so you'll always see the bank with the PCV look a little bit more dirty. Any blow-by gases or anything, that's the way they're kind of getting out of the engine. So technically, these are pedestal rockers, so you just torque them down and then they're good. But I like to be overly cautious about things. Some people accuse me of, at least. And so I prefer to at least install and make changes to the rocker geometry when they're in the right place, I guess, when they're unloaded. They're on the base circle of the cam. And so I'm just going to go through linear and switch them out as I go here. And so with the intake valve opening up here, it's going to get to its max lift. So, and it'll dwell. See here where it's dwelling is the lifter goes over the center of the lobe. It dwells at this point. The opposing valve on that cylinder, there's no possible way for it to be on anything other than the base circle. This is easy to mess up if you have adjustable rockers where you think that, well, this valve is opening, so I can adjust this one. You need to make sure you're at max lift because cams do have overlap, so you can't just look at when it just moves. It needs to be all the way open at full dwell. So at this point, this is our intake, it's at max open, and we can now address our exhaust valve. For 200,000 miles, that rocker arm does not look too bad. So now going back in with our 1.7 ratio rocker arm, which will give us a little bit more lift here. It's kind of got the pedestal piece that somewhat captivates it, doesn't allow it to rotate, and then there's a little trough down there that this goes into so it can't walk around. And then it's kind of a little bit different bolt action, but it's all the same idea here. And again, there's no adjustment to these. It's a pedestal rocker, so we're just going to take it down until it seats on everything, and then you torque it to get the appropriate thread stretch to lock it in. So I don't know if Ford went to these just because people never could figure out how to do valve adjustments correctly or what. You know, people have always struggled with that for, I mean, decades. So we're just going to rotate the engine over here now until our exhaust valve, which is doing its job here, gets down to max lift, which it looks like we're at, and our lifters are still pumped up, so that's pretty convenient so we can get a good idea of what coil bind would look like, and it looks like we're safe there. So at this point we can address our intake valve, and again, this methodology for going through valve train is extremely important with adjustable rockers, but still better safe than sorry with pedestals, because you're not trying to, you know, fight the lifter and fight the spring if this were in a different position, if it were at a lift point when you were trying to mess with it. So right now I know, because this is at max lift, that the opposing valve on this cylinder is on the base circle of the cam, and that's when you should be doing anything you're going to do to it. And my favorite comment that I've got lately is being accused of being autistic. I don't know, you know, probably, but at the end of the day, being really particular about all these little knick-knack things. If you catch yourself in life saying it's fine, it's probably not going to be fine, and you're going to pay the price. You're saying that in your head because you're reasoning with yourself because you know that you shouldn't be doing whatever you're about to do. So anyway, I don't know. All my stuff runs pretty good. I drive this classic stuff to work and back every day, and I don't have any issues. So right, wrong, or otherwise, whatever autistic stuff I do, I don't know. It seems to work okay. Insert some inappropriate joke about mechanics being good with their hands here. All right, we're at about the halfway point here, and I feel pretty bad taking these stamped steel guys off here after 200,000 miles of service. I will say they seem like they're actually more of a robust design than these roller rockers are, you know, despite the ratio being better. But I mean, what's it really worth? You know, like maybe if I'm like on the best day, 20 horsepower extra, probably more like 5, you know. So all right, they're all on there and they're dirty and look like they've always been there. So I guess that's fitting. Just wanted to check the torque here. They're 20 foot-pounds in the old small block Ford book, which, ooh man, I got a bone to pick with calling a Ford a small block because these are Windsors. Small block, big block is Chevrolet terms. There's no such thing as a small block Ford or a big block Ford, but I'll save that discussion for a different day. That's just all marketing because everyone liked the Chevrolet terms. But now, since we're only dealing with thread stretch here, we can just go right down the line. Ain't no thing. Easy peasy. Well, it's past 11 o'clock at night here, and my wife is wondering what the heck I'm doing out here still. So I'm just going to set the valve covers on here. I think we're in a good stopping point, and as much as I want to fire it off and make sure everything's good, you know, maybe I just won't ruin my evening if something isn't. So we'll set the valve covers on, and I'll catch you guys here when I have some time again, which hopefully isn't a week from now, but that kind of tends to happen. We'll see. So with that, see y'all tomorrow, hopefully, fingers crossed. Naturally, in my infinite wisdom here, I parked just in the spot where the sun doesn't get to, so now I have a ton of dew on all my windshields, windows, whatever. It's an early morning, okay? Just like old times. Used to have to do this number so I could see out of the windows every morning back in the trailer park days. Now you have bug goo all over your hand. Now, if you've followed me for the last 4 or 5 years, you know you're probably awful familiar with the Maverick. It's been my daily driver for half a decade now, and 50 miles round trip, which is less these days than it used to be. It used to be like 100 miles a day, but still hanging with the program here. Maybe. There we go. Just a good old car. Never hurts to have a good stress reliever in life, and I suppose this old rowdy Maverick is mine. Alright, so this is getting mildly absurd at this point, so let me just put these plug wires on here and fire this thing up because I'd like to have my garage spot back for the car that I drive to work every day. As much as I love wiping the windows off by hand all the time and dealing with that, I'm over it. I did that for a lot of my life, and as fun as that is, I don't really enjoy going back to it. Everyone always kind of dings me for not washing stuff off, but you know, I live on a gravel road anymore. So it's really pretty futile on a car that you drive all the time. So, you know, just leave myself a little note here and get to it eventually. Just let oil pressure come up this time. It's a little bit quieter. It's not like it's missing on a cylinder here because our vacuum gauge, you know, we'd be seeing this on the needle. So I think we better call it quits here for the night because we're just about running out of fuel. You can see the air starting to get in there, so that's exciting. Yep, there it is, and we're leaning out. So we're actively running out of gasoline right now. Kind of hard on the electric pump, so I think that's that. What if I wanted that dirt? What if I wanted that dirt on the windshield? Emily and I are trying to take a little canoe trip with, or the kayak, whatever these things are called, with the F100, but I seem to have misplaced some of our paddles, so I had to make one out of random garbage. See, you guys are always like throwing stuff away, you say it's junk. Anyway, she's always wondering why I hold on to stuff, but look at that. Broom handle and piece of a stop sign. Everyone has that laying around. Such a pain. And of course, one might wonder, why do you have a piece of a stop sign? Well, at one point, I turned a stop sign into a radiator fan shroud. So, you know, that's what everyone does. Just normal stuff around here. All right.
Oh, it's a cup holder. Should I bring something to dehydrate me?
Good. So it turns out the other paddles, there's bees, or what are they called? Spiders. There's spiders all over it. So
Have fun with that boat.
I'm dedicated now. I'm using it.
I know you are. I know how it is.
2. Something no one's ever seen before. My white legs, not in jeans.
Gotta put the Crocs in sport mode.
I don't even have any words for you. It's just,
That's fair.
out you go. What a dork. Come back if you find some cool. Oh, you're doing so good. Look at you. Look at you go. We sport, very sporting. How much sport? How sporting of you?